all survived the first week of BMS 175. Well done. Well done. And as you can see, it's going to be very, very cruisy because now you kind of know what's expected and you kind of know what you're doing. So cruising McCruise all the way through BMS 175. Okay, so now we're up to topic 3. Now topic 1 was the skin, topic 2 was renal, and topic 3 we're going to do some very, very important concepts. Fluid, electrolyte and acid-base balance. Keaton, why is this important for nurses to understand?
Oh, this is one of the most important concepts that the nurses will need to be able to understand to be good, effective nurses. All of our patients are humans, and all humans are made up of fluids and electrolytes, and that balance is so important to sustain life. When we've lost fluid, we need to know what to replace it with, what components to replace it with, and what can go wrong if we haven't got enough fluid. I just challenge the students to keep in the back of their mind as you're working through the fluid and electrolyte and acid-base balance, the lifespan considerations and how different our younger people are to our older people when looking at fluid balance and how to replace that.
Absolutely, Sue. Very, very important concepts to understand. Now, just to reiterate and make sure everybody understands, in order to be successful in this subject, you have to make sure that you create answers to these learning objectives. So make sure you do that at the end of each topic. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this picture and spend a little bit of time just thinking about what's going on here. Now, here is your beautiful cells. Look at them. All right, so your tissues are made up of cells. So your body is made up of cells. Now, a cell is always demanding nutrients. So it wants things to go in. So for example, oxygen and glucose. But the cell will also produce wastes. Okay, so you've got cells needing supplies and also creating wastes. So what we need to do for our cells is we actually need to make sure that they get the supplies that they need and the wastes are always removed. Now, how do we do that? The blood is what supplies it, okay? So here we have the blood and it's going to be going through these tissues. Now what happens is that the blood goes through and then the blood will clear out what is around the cell, okay? What is around the cell? Let's go back one. So what I'm saying is this. Our cell is demanding supplies. So the supplies are going to come from the blood. So the supplies are going to go from the blood into the surrounding fluid and then from the fluid into our cell. And then our cell is going to be happy. Then the wastes are going to move from the cell into the fluid. And then from the fluid back into the blood again. Okay, so that's the way it kind of works. The blood is supplying things to the cell, but the fluid is the middleman. Okay, the fluid is the middleman. So we need to make sure that we understand how that kind of works. All right. So in order to keep this interstitial fluid fresh, we need a constant supply of blood because the blood comes in, delivers its cargo to the fluid, and then the blood also accepts the rubbish from the fluid. So constant supply of blood will keep that interstitial fluid full of supplies and get rid of all the wastes. That's how it works.
And where does all that waste go once it's back in the blood, Nat?
Oh, well, funny you ask me that. Will that be something to do with topic 2? Yes, Yes, thank you. Very good. Very nice. Nice linkage there, Keaton. All right, so let's think about water. We are made up of water and protein, okay? We are aquatic beings. That's why I love the ocean so much, because it reminds me of where I came from. Now, here we go. So total body water is a function of age and sex and body weight. When you see a little baby and they're all beautiful, they look like a peach, and you give them a kiss and they start to bounce, that's because they're full of water. They're just one big water balloon, essentially. Look, a baby at birth is 80% water. Yeah, so that's why you need to think about, how the water is distributed. And then as we get older, you literally shrivel up, okay? You lose water. Look, me as an elderly person, I'm only half water, all right? So your body water content, if I can get my words out, is going to change, okay, as a function of age. But we are mostly water, so water is important. Okay, let me move you, Keaton, up here, because you're kind of in the way. Or maybe I'll put Keaton over here. Yeah, I'll put Keaton over there for a second. All right, just move you around. Spot Keaton. Now, here we go. So we have two main compartments where we hold water. Now, when I talk about water, I talk about water is equal to fluid, okay? So water is fluid. There are two spots where we hold fluid. Inside of our cells, okay, and that's called intracellular fluid. Here are your beautiful cells. Yeah, look at that. That's your little nucleus. So we hold water in there. And then we also hold water outside of our cells. So most of the water is inside of our cells. The other 1/3 is outside. Now, outside, when I talk about extracellular fluid, so outside of your cells, there's two spots where water can sit. In the plasma, which is the fluid, the water in the blood, or the fluid between the cells. See there? Those guys there. So there's two major categories, but the extracellular part is made up of an additional sub-2 categories. Sometimes the water in the blood is called intravascular, but just to make things simple, we'll just leave it like that. Let's move Keaton again. Keaton, are you dizzy? All right. Water is the universal solvent. So a lot of medicine is about what is the solvent and what are the solutes, okay? We have lots of things dissolved in water because we are made up of water. So you are essentially, as a human being, water with things dissolved in it, okay? Now, solutes, the things that are dissolved in water, can be electrolytes or non-electrolytes, okay? Now, what is an electrolyte? An electrolyte is something that if you chuck it in water, it actually gains a charge. So it becomes positive or negative. So that's just a chemical reaction that happens automatically. You chuck something in water, and if it becomes positive or negative, it's termed an electrolyte because, technically speaking, that's electricity. Non-electrolytes means that if that substance is, you chuck it in water and it doesn't break apart and have a charge, then it's called a non-electrolyte, okay? Right, now let's have a look at these pictures. These pictures kind of look like dice, but that's not what I was hoping for. That's what I got. All right, let's have a bit of a think about solutes in solution. All right, so can you see here, I've made my solutes orange. So here is my compartment of water. So here is where my water is sitting in compartment number 1, and this is compartment number 2. Now, I have the same number of solutes in both of those compartments. So remember when we did 165 that water moves via osmosis? So what you need to remember is that the solutes don't move. The only thing that moves is the water. So here you'd have the situation where water would go into there and then water will go into there, but it would be equal. There'll be no differences, no change. Let's have a look at this scenario. Here I have 1, 2 solutes, and here I have 1 solute. So what's going to happen here? Water is going to go from an area of high concentration to low concentration. So this is high concentration of water. Can I write with this? Not really. And this is low concentration of water. And then water's going to go bang into there, right? So what I want you to understand and get your head around is that solutes can't move, water moves, and the water movement is driven by the solute concentration. That's the point. Now, let's have a look and see what is in, so what are the solutes in all of the different fluids. So this is inside our cells, this is between our cells, and this is the water in the blood. Now look at this. What can you see? What stands out in this graph? What can you see? Well, I can see straight off the bat that there's lots of sodium, yeah? And there's a lot of it in the plasma, there's a lot of it in between our cells, but not a lot inside, yeah? So what I want you to think about when you look at this graph as a study activity, have a bit of a think about what the differences are between the solutes inside our cells, between our cells, and also in the blood.
And Nat, this is one of the reasons that so much of our fluid replacement is normal saline or salty water or sodium chloride. So that's the type of fluid that we're replacing for the person who's lost fluid, because there's such a high concentration of sodium or sodium in the blood that we need to replace equally. The same as potassium, you've got potassium there as well as an electrolyte. And so sometimes we need to add potassium to the fluid replacement that we're giving our patients to make sure that we equalise that as well.
Excellent point. Excellent, excellent. So make sure you think about that, yeah? Don't just look at the graph and go, meh. Just think about it and go, all right, I need to know. I would probably focus on sodium and potassium, I think, and sodium and potassium are probably the big ones. So make sure you understand the relative concentration of each in each of the compartments, yeah? All right, so fluid, like I said before, when I say fluid, I mean water, really, realistically. The majority of the fluid is water. So what does it mean to be in fluid balance? It means that the water that you lose needs to equal the water that you get in, okay? That's what when you are in fluid balance, water in must equal water out, okay? Now, how do we get the water in? Most of it is by drinking fluids, most of it. How do we get the water out? Urine, okay? Now, we're going to look at some other things related to fluid balance when we do your tutorials. So make sure, remember, your tutorials are really, really important for this subject. You should most definitely do them.
So Nat, if we had a negative fluid balance, we would have more fluid coming out than what's going in. And if we've got a positive fluid balance, then we would have less fluid coming out as urine, sweat, other loss than what's going in, hey?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what determines how much fluid goes in? Okay, so we know that we get most of the fluid coming in by drinking. So how does that work? And then we know that a lot or most of our fluid going out is always going to be for your urine. And remember, in topic 2, we learnt that your kidneys are always going to make urine. So it's up to you to drink and keep up with the old kidney, all right? Because they're going to do their job regardless of what you do. So if you don't drink enough, they will still do urine. They will still make urine for you, okay? That's their job. So let's have a look and see what happens. When your osmolarity of your blood increases, so we saw this before kind of in topic 2, when your blood is you don't have enough water in your blood, your hypothalamus picks it up and goes, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to make you feel thirsty. So then your hypothalamus makes you want to get a drink. Okay, that's how important water is to our bodies. We have a certain part in our brain designed to keep us alive, to say, hey, you don't have enough water in your blood, go and get a drink please, and not a beer, I want water. Okay, it has to be water. Now we know that kidneys will make urine regardless, okay? So the kidney is in charge of output, okay? So your kidney is going to make urine regardless, but it's going to tweak that. It's going to make more urine or more water in your urine if you drink more, okay? And we also saw in topic 2 how ADH is involved. So urine, remember, is made up of 2 things, solutes and water. The kidney will always fiddle around with the solute, okay? They will always do that automatically, but ADH takes care of the water part, okay? We saw that in topic 2. All right, so let's move Keaton out of the way again. Keaton's going to be going everywhere on our slides. All right, so now what we're going to learn is we're going to learn about aldosterone. Now, this is a little bit confusing in this, but you've seen this before in 165, so I'm confident you'll be okay. I'm just going to check the time. Okay, so we know that ADH is our water saver, which means that when ADH is around, we move water from the urine, which was marked to leave the body, back into the blood. So ADH is our water saver. Aldosterone is our salt saver, okay? When aldosterone is hanging around the kidney, it moves sodium from the urine back into the blood. Now, what does sodium do? Who follows sodium, Keaton? Oh, can't hear you. Can you hear me? No, she can't hear me. That's all right. So water always follows sodium, okay? So wherever sodium goes, water follows, okay? Now remember this system. When your blood pressure goes down, okay, your kidney is designed to pick that up and releases renin. It floats around in your blood. Renin converts this to this. This floats around, ends up in your lung. The angiotensin converting enzyme converts this to this. I know it's multiple steps. That goes to your adrenal gland and tells your adrenal gland to do 2 things. Well, your adrenal gland releases aldosterone, and angiotensin is a powerful vasoconstrictor. So you're narrowing your blood vessels and you're reabsorbing sodium, which is going to solve your blood pressure problem. Your blood pressure is going to go back up again. All right, so the last thing we're going to do in this particular part of it is I've given you a little drag and drop activity because I thought that would be fun. So I want you to do that to learn about water deficit, water excess, thinking about solutes, thinking about water and the impact that that has. So make sure you do this activity to learn that. All right, I think we're done.